that good?
I read online that you could eat it. It's my favorite snack now.
Why do you think the show is so successful? What about it do you think people resonated with?
Between us having a real friendship, it is a pretty good reimagining of the genre. The fact that we are not necessarily having a laugh at other people's expense, but our own. That idea was born out of that concept.
So what is the punishment for saying no to a punishment?
There is none. You can't say no.
Oh my fucking God!
And we do elaborate stuff too, but sometimes the hardest stuff is the most simple.
Do people lose it at you?
Our goal is never to make anyone feel stupid or angry. Sometimes it's a byproduct.
They say if you can make a woman laugh, then you can make her fall in love. Is that true? All right, Sal, thank you so much for coming on the Iced Coffee Hour. It is an honor to have you on the show.
Oh,
Really is,
that's
man.
so nice of you guys. Thank you.
both
It's an
huge-
honor to be here. Thank you for coming to New York.
We're both huge fans. So this is like really exciting for us.
Yeah,
to do.
Is it true that you're both really huge
Oh,
fans?
yeah.
I grew
Really?
up watching
course.
Impractical Jokers.
Oh,
like,
so
with
that's
my
real.
Like I called my dad and I was like, Dad, like
Oh,
we're
no
having
shit.
Sal on this show. He's like, no way. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everyone we talk to is just like, you have a Sal on? Like, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, out of the people that you get on there said that about me.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Believe it or not,
yeah,
yeah.
you just kind of have like one of those faces, one of those presences that people kind of just they know. So,
Well, this is wonderful already.
well, first question is, we have to know, have you ever seen the Meat Canyon spin-off of Impractical Jokers? Have you seen that?
Yes.
What do you think about
Wait,
that?
just remind me what it is.
It's
It's
car-
the
it's the
animated
cartoon.
one about like
Oh, it's the animated one.
yeah,
robbery.
it-
Oh, because
with
the
the crazy faces. and,
bank
Oh,
robbery
okay,
one.
yeah. Because there was another one that was like
You saw the marriage one.
there was
but the thing
two
where
crazy ones.
They
One was
lost the
animated-
kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, the garage sale one. That one. That's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then also the cartoon one.
The cartoon one, I forget.
That was the bank robbery one, where you guys were laughing in the van. And
Yeah,
you got to go into the
it was
bank and
psychotic,
rob it. It was
right?
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad. I can't speak to the details of it. I saw it when it came out, and I was like, "What the hell? This is crazy."
What'd you think? It
I'm
was just-
flattered by all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's going to take their time and creative energy to do something that has anything to do with and it's awesome. I love it. I mean, I do remember seeing it because I get sent everything immediately.
Yeah.
Like if someone sees it, or we're in a lot of memes. Like our show is perfect for a meme when like something terrible happens or something like crazy happens. They'll cut it in and they'll put us like, all right, now tell them to say this, and then they'll put the thing in the middle, and then the three of us like laughing at So I see that we become a lot of like pop culture zeitgeist stuff just because it's like it's the perfect meme for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm always flattered if anyone puts any type of energy into something like that.
I noticed that you have your like official YouTube channel, the one with like a few thousand subscribers that no one's found out about yet.
Yeah.
You posted like 15 shorts. Is that actually you?
It is me. I just never had one. So when I came to YouTube, I should have made my own name, but instead I made the No Press Network, which would house two of my podcasts. And I just was like, I was starting two new podcasts up, and I was like, I don't want people to have to go to two different places for them. So I'll put them under one umbrella. And so I figured, if I call it a network, then I could use it for production and other things and grow it. Yeah. So I called it the No Press Network. That's the channel on YouTube that I use. That's the one that ended up getting hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And then the special was coming out, and I'm like, well, I want to release this under my own banner or whatever. And I was like, so let me make an account. But there was no runway to feed the content to it. So there's no reason for people to go to it. So I haven't really promoted it at all.
So you mentioned on Theo Von that you had 6 jobs.
Yeah.
What are those 6 jobs?
So I tour with the guys. So that's one whole entity and show, live show. And then I'm a stand-up comedian. So I have, I tour myself, new tour right now actually. And then I have the television show. And then I have 2 podcasts. And then we have a production company called Bad Woods Productions, which develops and pitches and makes shows. So how many is that so far?
I think that's 6.
I mean, if you,
if you
call
count the 2
each individual
podcasts,
podcast as one, then that would be 6.
Yeah, there are 2 different jobs.
Yeah.
I'll call them 2. Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. So when did you realize that you were funny? Were people telling you this as a kid?
As a kid, I was in school. I was like the class clown
Yeah.
kind of guy. At home, I was a clown. I was like, I've said this on a podcast before, but I used to like memorize my favorite shows and then like put on like perform for the family on like the holidays and stuff. Like the Jeffersons specifically is like my favorite show of all time. When I was little, I used to like watch. I don't even know if you guys know what
I
the
was thinking of the
Jeffersons is.
Jetsons, but I
No,
don't think
the Jeffersons is Norman Lear podcast like that was a spinoff of All in the Family that was big in like the I want to say early 80s. Moving on up, George Jefferson, he owned the cleaners.
He might know
seen
better
it.
than I would.
I've seen it, but I don't remember the details.
All right,
Yeah.
well, it's like old school sitcom, like where it felt like little plays, like the studio audience is really like studio audience there, and I just like write down like just in real time try to catch as much of the dialogue as I could, and then I'd like go into school and and for my family, and I'd like act it all out and everything. So it's like, and then my parents didn't really censor anything that I had to watch, and so I was watching like Eddie Murphy at a very young age.
Oh, Eddie Murphy's hilarious.
Yeah.
His early stand-up was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he was 19, 20 years old doing Delirious and then Raw, whatever. And so I watched those VHSs until they broke. So like I just was like, and he was like, Trading Places and Coming to America and 48 Hours. All those, like Eddie Murphy was huge for me as a kid. Yeah. And I just kind of like from that point on, Bill Cosby. I mean, like we used to watch it when it was family friendly, good content. I mean, Eddie wasn't, but he was a storyteller and the best of its kind. If you don't know, that story took a turn. Google it, Bill Cosby, if you haven't really been up on anything. But back then,
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure people know.
So we got to know. You got a finance degree.
Yeah. You don't want to talk about Cosby anymore.
We could keep talking about Cosby. Okay. Have you ever met the guy?
No, I've seen him live with my dad.
How was that?
He was
funny?
great. I mean, I sat in the second row with my dad, and he did 2.5 hours and you just like, holy cow, I'm watching a living legend. I don't feel the same about him now. But I could isolate just him, the material when we were little. We used to quote it all the time.
2.5 hours. So is that like mostly like rehearsed and then just regurgitated on stage, or like because I can't imagine 2.5 hours is like.
I think he's just up there going off the seat of his pants. I think he has a lot that he does, but I think he's like is always working on that type of like it's like a Chappelle. Chappelle gets up on stage in a club and will stay up there for 3 hours and just like write on stage.
You think you can separate the art from the artist with someone like Bill Cosby, or you think that's just?
I mean, look, I mean, when himself was out, I was like 5 or whatever, and I watch it a million times. So that has nothing to do with that.
Right.
Like I still eat Jello. I'm
What
not
happened with
going to
Jell-O?
stop eating pudding. He was the spokesperson for Jello pudding.
Was he?
Okay.
I had no idea.
I had no
between
idea.
us, so
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, he was like, like the whole like Jello thing that he used to do.
Haven't seen it. No.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'd like to look at the books now, the financial
did they
books
take a
for
hit
Jello, and see if
for
there was a
that?
residual hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was a long time ago too, and I wonder if people are able to eat pudding now or not.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Actually,
Not.
take a look into that. So why did you take finance? Like, what was the purpose of that?
Dude, I was 17, and they said, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I have no clue what I want to do at all, and I know that I want to make money, and finance literally deals with money."
Right.
And so I have a bachelor's in finance.
What did you think you wanted to
I didn't like it
go
while I
into?
was doing it. I didn't retain a lot of it. I have as much retained knowledge of this subject as a child. It was a complete waste.
What was your plan going into it though? Like investment banker, wealth manager? You didn't know.
Whatever finance meant.
Well, what were you doing in college then? Were you ever thinking about like, okay, what am I going to do with this finance degree, or was it just like kind of a byproduct or like a?
No, it was like a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, I took accounting, I took this, I took that," and then you go interview, and they'd get a job, right out of college, and I just figured I'll do that. I'll just go to a financial institution, and I did. I went to Prudential Securities. My first interview, I was hired, and I worked for Prudential Securities for over 4 years
You worked for
after that.
Prudential?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. And
What
I
were you
did.
doing? What were you doing exactly?
So I started in like back office operations and mutual funds, and then I transitioned to business systems analyst for the mutual fund trading system. So I helped build the trading systems for the brokers.
Well, that's like a legit.
It's legit. It's insane for me to say.
So how
that.
did you even? But you said that when you were in college, it was kind of the finance.
I
thing,
didn't know anything about mutual funds in college either. I just learned all of this on the job.
How did you get the job? Was it just easier back then?
I just went and I interviewed. I had my friend's dad was pretty high up there.
Okay.
And gave me a reference, but I'm sure you still can't go in and be a dope,
Right.
But I think they were like, I remember because they were. I remember the guy who interviewed me was very taken that I was a comedian, and so like it was like a 40-minute interview, and most of it he was asking me about comedy, and writing comedy and all that stuff, and so like
So you just made him laugh. So he's just like,
yeah,
I want to
pretty
hire
much.
this guy
I mean,
around.
I had my resume, which was like pretty good. I did well in college, and then I don't think people go into that like very respect. I was referring to him as Mr. This, and I had met a woman coming in, and I remember her name was Irene Mikalakis, and I was like, "Oh, Miss Mikalakis told me," and he's like, "Miss Mikalakis," and I was like, "Yeah." And I think he was taken with the fact that I just was kind of just respectful in that way, or whatever. I remember like that. I remember he like
That
did
you knew
like
a name?
Yeah, just that I was saying Mr. This or Mr. That. I guess people don't do that. I don't know. They hired me. It wasn't like it was a back office
Did
operation.
it pay well?
So I don't
back
think you
then?
needed a degree for it, you know. So I think I came to the table with a degree, with a reference, No, it was $28,000 a year.
Oh wow! So
This was 1998.
okay.
So it's
So
probably
it's like
50
or
60
so,
grand
adjusted
these
for
days.
inflation.
Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to crunch the numbers there,
Yeah.
but it wasn't good. I remember with overtime, I made my first year. I made $32,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And I worked there. I was also the freaking clown of that office.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to have like these mixers and these things that would like be team building. They have this day where it's like, oh, today the whole office is gonna play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Sal will host it, or this or that, or like. And we had things that we went out and there was all these events, and they always made me like the host of it. So I would just be like
It's
literally
good practice.
Yeah, I was just I was doing comedy already. Because I was doing sketch and improv since 1999. So it's right around that time.
Right.
So I was performing in the city. So my whole office used to come see me and everything. So I was just like the guy that like was liked at the office because I was a funny comedian. The work, I didn't love it, but it was like I did it and I started to like get promoted, and I didn't want to be in that space. It's like by the time I left 4 years later, I was an assistant VP of this department, and I got a raise and like some stock options and
Okay,
stuff.
the way
impressive,
that
though,
you're
yeah.
like relaying this, it makes it seem like you kind of just stumbled across.
I did. I didn't know what I was going to do when I went there. I didn't know anything about mutual funds. And then I was like, everyone like transferred into office. I saw that happening, and like people became programmers, and like the pay was better in these other departments. And so I was like, where can I transfer? And it was mutual fund related. And so a business systems analyst, for people that don't know what it is I was the go-between between the brokers and the programmers. So I had to know the language of code and the business of mutual funds, so that when they needed something done, I was basically a translator, right? I could explain to the programmers what was needed, and then I would help write that code and make the manual for whatever that like their project was going to be, that then they would follow, the programs would follow to make the action. So we built a trading system for mutual funds for brokers of Prudential while I was there. It sounds like impressive, and I guess in hindsight, like I did work a lot. I was working really long hours, but I was like figuring it out as I went the entire time, and I never took it serious.
But you know what? Before we go into that, this year I've taken my health extremely seriously. I've gone to the gym 4 to 6 times every single week. I've really cut out a lot of foods in my diet, some foods that were really unhealthy that I wasn't even thinking about. And our sponsor, Factor, was there to help.
When I'm trying to decide what to eat, I take into account 3 things, which is the affordability, how quickly I can get it, and of course the nutrition. And Factor fortunately checks all 3 of those boxes. Factor meals are incredibly easy to eat in just 2 minutes with no mess or cooking involved. All you gotta do is take one of the meals from the refrigerator, put it in the microwave, and 2 minutes later it's ready to eat. And seriously guys, they actually taste really good. Like, I consider myself to be a decent chef, but Factor actually tastes better than what I can make.
They also make meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever, thanks to their menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto.
And of course, Factor's meals are fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved, and made by their team of gourmet chefs that only use ingredients that you can trust. With 35 different meals and over 60 add-ons that you can choose from every single week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. You can choose from premium ingredients such as, I kid you not, filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. And if you're looking for something to drink, Factor has you covered with a range of beverages, including smoothies, shakes, and juices.
Factor saves me a ton of time and money, and I'd highly recommend it. So if you're curious what it tastes like, go ahead to factormeals.com/icedcoffee50 and use the code icedcoffee50 at checkout for 50% off your first box plus 20% off the next month. Again, that's code icedcoffee50 at factormeals.com/icedcoffee50 for 50% off your first box plus 20% off the next month while your subscription is active. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this episode, and now let's get back to the podcast. Did you ever pull pranks? People at the office, like just prank them?
No.
No?
I people ask me like, so when did you start doing pranks, and
Yeah.
what were you like as a kid? And like I tell, like we needed an idea for a pitch meeting. Like I'm not the prank guy. I don't do joke. Like none of that was me at all. But we've been a comedy troupe since '99, and we got an agent in 2007 finally, and then they set us up with a bunch of meetings to pitch shows, and so we had to think of ideas, and we sat down, and this was one of the ideas we thought of, and I told this story, but not to your audience. It was like we had these meetings set up for a week, and we didn't have any ideas. And we went to lunch one day and thought of 3 ideas that we would pitch days later. One of them was Jokers, and MTV and True TV offered to buy it in the room, which is very rare.
Like immediately.
Immediately.
What does
So
it
why'd
mean
you
buy
pick
it?
True TV over MTV?
Yeah, so MTV offered first, and when we went into True TV, we already had an offer.
Oh, so you shopped it.
Well, we were going already. It wasn't like, we were pitching it to everyone already. So that was already going to happen. But MTV wanted to make the show a game show, a strip show, which is like basically a game show that is every day of the week, like Monday through Friday. And they wanted different contestants to compete and just have it just make it a game show, where we were like, no, the secret sauce is we've known each other for 30 years. We want people to invest in our characters, our different personalities, and have favorites. And that's the hook of them, coming back. And then True was like, that's the show we want to make. I remember they said to us, they're like we have an offer. We were transparent. And I remember Marissa Ronca was the name of the executive. And she was like, is it MTV? And we're like, yeah. And she's like, I knew it. And she's like, don't go with MTV. She's like, they don't pay. They have no money. They will not pay you. They will not. The budget won't be great. And we're like, all right, I don't know, whatever. And she's like, but we'll make the show that you want to make. And we were like, all right, that's the show we want to make. So, I mean, at this point, I was 35 years old. And I had already had a lot of failure, and we thought of, plenty of things. We tried to, we were in festivals, we made short films, we were doing other television shows, single camera scripted shows, everything. So we were like, all right, this is finally this is lightning in a bottle, and we got an opportunity. It's just crazy how that happened, because everything before it was arduous and failure and nothing clicking. And we just said we want a show that will showcase our relationship and our skill set, which is improvising. And so that idea was born out of that concept. And we thought, well, we can thrive in this. Like, even when we were writing single camera scripts, it was still like, we're still new writers, and we're still like not steeped in that world. And so it was like we were finding our way through that, just like I was finding my way through mutual funds.
So when all of you met, was it an instant connection?
So we met in high school, before any of this. So, it was an all boys Catholic high school. It was small. It was like maybe 1,000, 1,200 kids total. So there's only 300 kids in our class. So I knew everyone. So we weren't like a clique that walked around together. We were all friends, but not like together. And then in like junior year, there was an improv class or an improv show. And so we joined up for that and did it again in senior year. And all of us were in that. And then that's it. We went and left for college. And when we came back, I bumped into James on the show, and he had started the improv troupe at Georgetown, where he was. So he had been doing it, and I had started going to acting classes and improv classes. We were all still doing it, and we were like, "You want to get together and just just mess around?" And so we would go to Joe Gatto's mom's basement of her townhouse, and that's where we would rehearse. And we rehearsed 3 times a week for 6 months before our first little black box theater show. It was pretty, and we were just learning. We were reading books on it and like teaching ourselves. We would go down to UCB and watch all the shows there and study it, surround ourselves and steep ourselves in it. And we would oh my God, we would tape the rehearsals. And then when we finished rehearsal for like an hour and a half, we'd play the rehearsal and watch it like football players watch tape. And just pause it and be like, oh, why did you make that choice? Or I could have done that better, or this or that. Like, we really dove into it. So we were like, well, we can make a show where, we are ourselves and we are improv. Like, we don't have to learn how to, we had to learn how to make the show as production wise, but we didn't need to learn how to be ourselves, And so that's what ended up, I think, being we're really fortunate, is that we didn't come across green in that respect. You know what I mean? When we were pitching it. And, so we just went to, we had the idea. We went to Times Square, the 4 of us, with our cell phone cameras, 2 nights later. And we filmed 4 or 5 little bits with a little lav mic, just the 4 of us. We cut the cell phone footage together. That was a sizzle tape that we showed in the room. The show didn't exist conceptually 5 days before it, and the tape didn't even exist till 3 days before it. and we got so lucky. It was just like preparedness, opportunity, luck at the same time.
So when they buy the show, what does that exactly mean? Do they commit to paying for a certain amount of episodes, and how does that work?
Yeah, I think what they did was they bought a pilot, and then as we were filming the pilot, they watched footage of it. They liked it immediately, and so they ordered 8 episodes. And then as we were handing in episodes, I think by the 4th episode, they liked it so much they made it to 16 episodes. And we ended up doing 17. There was a special 17 episodes in the first one. And then I thought we were done. I really did. I thought, like, I told the guys, like, I think that we've done all we can here. You know, like, how much can we do in this, you know? And I was like, it was nice while it lasted. And they didn't renew us until like 6 months after that. So we did not come away from the first season really knowing if we were coming back. And then they did. And then we bumped to 26 episodes and 5 specials. And we did 31 episodes for the next like 8 seasons or whatever. So we're approaching 300 episodes now if we haven't passed it already.
Now, how does it work with negotiating individual salaries on a show like that? Do you have someone else doing that?
Yeah, well, our agents will negotiate that. You know, we have candid talks and what our bottom lines are and what we're going for, and they'll try to get us whatever they can. And actually, in the beginning, it wasn't much at all. Like, we didn't have any pull. Only in success comes the pull. And so we kind of didn't make a lot of money. It's funny. People think that if you're on television, you're rich or something like that. I was making like a regular salary. We were the first few years. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything outrageous. Yeah. And you know, with success, we were able to like, you know, finally like turn the tables a little bit and make up for. Because in the beginning, it was criminal what they were paying us.
What were they paying you? Can you say?
It was like it was nothing. It was like I mean, not nothing, but
like a couple grand an
what
episode?
You would think, what you would think it would be on television, you know, like, and like it was 16 episodes. So it took us a year to make, like, you know, because back then, now we are a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
We can write a manual on how to make this show. We run very efficiently. There's not a lot of burn. Our days are shorter, you know, and so we can make the show in like probably like, you know, 30-40% less time than it would take in the past. Yeah. But back then it consumed a lot of time. So we were working just crazy amount. And we were making, I remember my weekly check was like $1,100 after taxes.
Wow.
Yeah. Jeez. Or that might've been a bi-weekly. I don't really remember. It was like, we got like $3,000 an episode or something like that.
And you were still working at Prudential
like
during this?
60 grand, whatever was that?
Were you still working at Prudential?
I had left Prudential. So I had left Prudential in, so the show happened. No, I had long left Prudential. They were having layoffs. I knew I didn't want to be there, and I wanted to save someone's job. They were giving severance. I just took it and ran. And I became a bartender because I wanted the flexibility of schedule to do comedy. Yeah. And so I bartended for 10 years after Prudential before I got this show. And, you know, the whole time learning that business. And I eventually, my backup plan, or the plan was, I didn't know this was going to happen. So my plan was to buy a bar and own a bar.
I could see you as a great bartender.
It's great practice for
and
for
just
the
the
show
comedy, but the comedy
improv.
bit of like, you know, interacting with people, just very charismatic.
Thank you.
Like, I'd order a drink from you.
I take every job. I've only had like 4 jobs in my life actually. And I take everyone really seriously. I love bartending. I bartended in every scenario you could think of. I did weddings and hole in the wall places and nightclubs and all that stuff. I settled in at a neighborhood, like an artsy neighborhood bar, where I live. The only place I would really hang out at. So it was like a place that I would go to anyway. And I was there for like 8-9 years, and I loved it. I mean, I made some of the best relationships that I've had still to this day. Half the people that work on my show I met at that bar. They're just my funny friends who are very capable. Casey Jost directs the show now. He came on as a PA because I knew his talent, but I couldn't he had to prove himself, and I knew PA to writer to head writer to director of the show. And a handful of my other buddies who had never written for television or comedy before are writers on the show. The camera guys are my friends from home too. Like, we just took everybody with us. So the bar, I ended up buying a bar after like 8 years. I had an opportunity. I left the place I was at. I bought a place, and like a month later, I got the show, and I had just sunk my life savings like into the bar.
How much is it to buy a bar?
Well, I went in with 2 friends, and they had gone in just before me, and they offered me to come in, and so I put in tens of thousands of dollars, you know, at that time.
Right.
I think probably maybe like $30,000. I think I put in, And that would then require my 100% dedication as a new business would. 24/7, you got to live and breathe it. So then I get the show, which is the same exact scenario. I got a show now after 15 years of being in this, so I had to do that too. So for the first 2 seasons, 2 years, I did both. And so I would go from the filming from like 8 to 5 and then work from 7 to 4.
Wow.
So for like 2 years, I had like 4 hours sleep a night. It was crazy, but I had no choice. I had no choice. It caught up to me big time. So in season 3, the show really became an even bigger hit in season 2. We were getting these great numbers, and we knew we were coming back. And so I just made a leap of faith to be like, all right, I'm going to go into entertainment full time. And I kind of like conceded my.
You just
shares.
gave them the equity of the bar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just literally just gave it back. Like I didn't ask.
How
for
was it
anything back.
doing? How was the bar doing?
It closed a year later.
Oh,
You were the special sauce, man.
I don't know what I was.
You must
but
have been.
Yeah, like a year or so later, or whatever.
Did people go in and see you and recognize you from the show?
Yeah, it was not fun because it was on Thursday nights, and so my friends would be like, "Put it on, we want to see you." And so that was a real weird, humbling experience to like be bartending while the TV show was on.
But I feel like that could have blown up the bar. Like more people.
Yeah, people came to watch it for sure. But it is weird, for it to be on in the background. People are like, "Yo, get me, Shirley Temple." And I'm like, "No problem, buddy.
Come on, hurry up.
How
I'm in a
are you
rush
today?"
here. Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's really cool.
And
Why do you think the show is so successful? What about it do you think people resonate
I
with?
think that it is a pretty good reimagining of the genre of hidden camera. I don't really think anything like that. One element of the show, and it's the way that people explain the show the most, because it's the easiest way to explain it, is that we have an earpiece in and we have to do and say what we're told, or we lose. That's like a third of our show, maybe. 2/3 of the show are another like 100 things that we do. Literally, like I get probably 50 different types of games and angles and things that we play that aren't like do and say exactly what you're told. So I think it's between us having a real friendship, and I mean we've known each other since we were 13 years old. I'm 47, and then us like kind of like reimagining the concept of hidden camera, and then turning it inward and making the fact that we are not necessarily, having a laugh at other people's expense, but our own. It's like more of a social situation scenario. It's like a social faux pas. And it was more like, I think that it was more like we wanted, in the beginning, they wanted us to make a lot of jokes. Like they had wanted 5 or 6 bits per episode, which, without commercials is 22 minutes. So to do 5 bits, 6 bits, you're getting 3 minutes a bit. It was 4 of us. Everyone had to take a turn. So in the beginning, it took, and we filmed 1 bit in a day, basically. And so we had to film so much more in a day to cram all that into 22 minutes. And in the beginning, if you watch it, I don't love the show in the beginning, although knock on wood, people responded to it, because it's different. It's way different than it is now. It's like quick in, out, one-liner, like that kind of cut out, swipe, next thing, cut out, joke, swipe. Like for that, for this new generation of like, no, people don't have any, they can't have a time span, like they can't focus on stuff, But as we got more success, we whittled it down to just 2 bits and a punishment, so that we can have these moments with these people breathe. Because I think the magic is also the time that we spend in the moments with these people. It's not just solely about, candid camera, this goes to pick up $1 and we yank the dollar. Or, it's not punked where it's like, 30 minutes just on Justin Timberlake getting his house repossessed. Like it's these moments with real people, and every single one of them is unique, and we don't know where it's going. And we could spend 2-3 minutes with one person. And I think like that was new to people, you know what I mean? And so I just think the combination, they then made our show in 30 other countries, and they cast the show.
And do you guys get royalties or something from that?
Yeah, I mean, we get like, it trickles down a bit. By the time it gets to us, it's not people think, the show is, syndicated, or all these other versions. It's not like Seinfeld.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we split ownership with the network, with the production company. And then, of course, we have to pay agents and this and that. So, but the shows all went a season, 2 seasons, maybe 3, but they failed because they cast people.
Yeah.
So that 30-year friendship wasn't there. And then also, oddly, they used our show as like a literal manual. So they were recreating our bits and the jokes in these other countries. And so, you know, we licensed the formula out, but it just didn't have that.
Didn't have the sauce.
Yeah.
That sauce, yeah. So, so it's kind of like, it's kind of wild that happened too, that all of a sudden, like, I'd go on a vacation into the country and just I would see two things. Our show with my voice dubbed, which is hysterical to see. Like, I'm in Costa Rica watching me dubbed. And then all these other casts, which was, it was wild to see that, like, an idea we had over lunch is playing in Brazil. You know, it's like, it was kind of crazy.
Now, I know that you're like a germaphobe, right? Because you get sick easily and stuff like that. Is that the hardest punishments that you have to do, or ones involving some form of, like, you know, unsanitary environment? Or is it other things that are like socially, you know, anxious? Or what's for you personally the most uncomfortable?
Totally a la carte. Because they both, it's hard for me. Like, yes, I'm not a germaphobe. Like, I live in a plastic bubble.
Yeah.
But I'm constantly working and touring, and I can't afford to get sick. I'm on stage having to perform. I'm on camera having to perform. I have to travel to 100 cities a year. Getting sick is my worst enemy. And when I get sick, I don't have the best immune system. And I can have a cold for like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I'm hyper aware of, like, people sneezing around me or disgusting things. And, you know, on the show, everything is real. Like, the people are really familiar with us but it is heightened. You know, I am like, I'm not putting it on, but, you know, we're performing. It's a comedy show. So I don't walk around like, oh my God, that's, you know, whatever. But it is, I really am, you know, like that. I don't really, you know, if you sneeze, I'd be like, oh, fuck it. You know, in my head, I'd be like, let me inch away. Or like, I won't touch stuff on the subway. And I have hand sanitizer on me at all times. Like, that wasn't me before this, because as a bartender, I kept hand sanitizer under the bar for any time someone shook my hand. So they would make fun of me because they're like, you're killing all the.
I can't stand when I shake someone's hand and their hand is really sweaty.
Oh,
really sweaty, and then
Sometimes
I feel
help it though, and they don't like it either.
Do they not acknowledge their hand is sweaty? Like, if it is, you fist bump it.
Yeah, well,
that's a
I
good point.
fist bump for the most part.
Yeah, fist bumps are good. Yeah.
But then again, it's also hard to tell someone that the tip they just gave me is shit. Like, I didn't do it at the bar. I did it. Like, one time I played a delivery guy, and I was delivering lunches to office buildings. And when the people came down and gave me, and I gave them lunch, I had to, like, be like, this tip is garbage tip. Like, it is so hard to muster up. And we do elaborate stuff too, but sometimes the hardest stuff is the most simple thing.
But before we get into that, a big reason why Graham and I love doing this podcast is because we get to have really transparent conversations with people that are doing incredible things and are willing to share their thought processes, strategies, and decision-making that help make them successful. And I'm willing to take a bet that you're here for the exact same reason, to learn, improve, and get actionable advice that you can apply into your own life. And what better place to find that than with our sponsor, Masterclass.
Masterclass is the only streaming platform where you could learn and grow with over 200 of the world's best. For only $10 a month, an annual membership to Masterclass gets you unlimited access to every single instructor. For instance, you could learn key communication skills with FBI hostage negotiator Chris Voss, turn your wildest dreams into successful businesses with Richard Branson, or even take your basketball shot to the next level with Steph Curry.
And I gotta say, guys, James Clear, the author of one of my favorite books of all time, Atomic Habits, has an incredible class that teaches you how to build habits that stick. He made a point that absolutely revolutionized the way that I think, which is we do not rise to the level of our goals, but we fall to the level of our systems.
And Masterclass is easy. You could use it on your phone, computer, smart TV, or even in audio mode. Not to mention, the classes really do make a difference, with 88% of their members saying that Masterclass has had a positive impact on their lives. That's a lot of value for only $10 a month, and you could get an additional 15% off an annual subscription when you go to masterclass.com/iced. That's 15% off at masterclass.com/iced. Masterclass.com/iced. Thank you so much to Masterclass for sponsoring this episode, and now let's get back to the podcast.
What would you say? I know this, you know, you've done over 300 episodes now. The one thing that comes to mind when I say the most uncomfortable thing that you've had to do on the show.
Oh my God.
The first thing that comes to mind. So I know you, because you're probably juggling 30 things right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so many. I went to a business mixer once, and I only had one business card, and I would have to get into a networking conversation, give them my business card, and then go back and tap them and say, "I'm sorry, I found someone better. Can I have my business card back?" I played a audio guy on a studio for a television show, and as I was miking people, I had to tell them their breath smelled like shit. I was a judge at a kids talent show. I had to rip the kids to shreds. I mean, it just goes on and on from those to the physical ones, like when they put me in a swamp in the bayou for the day. Like it just is funny. Awful. You know what I mean? But it's fun. But it's just like those little ones are the hardest ones. Like they just had me do one. I was at a bowling alley and they were like, "You're gonna just play a douchebag that throws money at all your problems." And I was walking around to people like I knock someone's drink over or whatever. They made me do so. Punishments, I can't say no. Right. So they made me I would knock someone's drink over. They'd look at me and I'd be like, "Sorry," and I had a wad of ones. And I would peel out and just drop it on the floor and be like, and just walk away. Like, those are really, because I'm really actually shy and pretty polite in real life. And so like those moments, like,
dude, and people might know you too as like the guy, you know, they assume you have a show, you have money or whatever. And you're just a total D-bag in real life.
Yeah. Well, most of the time, if they know me, they think they're on the show. Right.
Oh,
so like most of the time in my real life. So most of the time I spend is my real life. Like the show is a half hour a week.
Yeah.
But when people see me, they think they're on the show.
Wow.
So as I walk around all day, everyone who sees me thinks they're on the show. So that's one of the things that comes along with it that I had to accept, you know.
That's fun.
But sometimes people, rarely, but sometimes people see me and they don't think that. They just think they're seeing me. And that does happen. Like sometimes they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the show's over. I work at Best Buy now." You know, like, and they just believe me. Wow. You know what I mean? Like,
do people ever freak out though? Like, let's say the $1 bill example or any of those pranks. Do people lose it at you?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is never to be mean. Our goal is never to make anyone feel stupid or angry. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a byproduct, but it's always like I want bemusement. I want people to be befuddled. I want people to like it's you know, escapism. So it's all always on us, you know. But you're gonna cross. It's law of averages. You're gonna cross paths with people that are already locked and loaded, or have that personality, or you know, are just dramatic or whatever. So every once in a while, you'll get someone that'll get in your face, or like is just not having it, or just like screams at you to the point that it's so uncomfortable. And that's just terrible.
Do you ever have security have to step in on some of these?
We got one guy because he's a nice guy, he's our buddy, but it's contractual, so he has to be there for insurance purposes. But it's just one guy, and and it's the illusion of security. There's no security. You know, like even I mean sometimes like goes down and it's like he's not gonna do that. You know what I mean? And it's like luckily like the show and the people now are our family. We've been with these people over a decade. We have like 60 people or more I think on the show, and so these people like are my family. And that's everyone from whatever position you could name. And so like, you know, what people don't see when we're doing the show is we're on camera, but there's 40 of our friends on the other side of the camera watching, laughing, doing what they got to do. We're very collaborative with them. So if anything else, everybody kind of steps up and kind of like guards us if anything ever happens.
I'm curious. I know you get asked this question a lot, but I feel like we just have to ask because our audience, this is a little bit different than a lot of the comedy shows that you've been on so far. When you get recognized on the set, there's no way that you guys film and not every single bit people are recognizing.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah. How
do you isolate then the people that, you know, don't know you into something like a focus group bit or something like that?
So in the public, it's just, you know, we just need to be in a densely populated area, you know, because if you know me, he won't know me. In New York City's perfect.
Yeah.
Right. You'd be surprised how many people don't know you, more than just as much as that know you. You know what I mean? Like I don't watch Game of Thrones. If the cast walked by, I wouldn't know them. It's the most famous show. You know what I mean? But when we're doing focus groups, we have so many techniques. And first, when these people respond to these ads, we give them questionnaires they have to fill out that are like telltale. So it'll be buried in these questionnaires, like, oh, you know, what are your favorite television shows? What networks do you watch? You know, what kind of comedy do you like? And if anything comes even anywhere near orbiting us, if they say True TV, they're not getting called. If they say Hidden, they're not getting called. So that's the first step. And then we also, like, let's say we're doing a focus group, we go into the holding area as one of them.
Okay, yeah.
And so normally what will happen is they'll isolate us. Like if there's a room of like 30 people that we have for the day, we'll call like a few people out at a time, and like I'll be out. So I don't want to go in the room with the 30 because I don't want to contaminate the room if someone knows me. Yeah. But they'll bring them out piecemeal. And so if someone comes out or two people come out, we're going to walk them, and they walk out the door and they see me, they cannot contain a reaction. And so right there, we cut them right there. And so
how often does that happen?
We're vetting them. It happens like half the people of the day.
Really?
Yeah. Or at this point, yeah. Like season 1 was a breeze. No one knew us, but yeah.
And now
it's built in. It can be. It depends. Like, and also there's more geographic locations or neighborhoods, oddly, that will know us more than others. You know what I mean? So yeah. So we build that all into it. Even on the street, we have eyes. We have so many cameras. We're watching everyone. We're doing multiple things out there. We're trying to be in the moment for the comedy. And for myself, I want to play everything as real as possible, right? And I want to be in the moment. That's like the most important part of the performance. But also, we produce the show, we edit the show, we do, So I'm also wearing a bunch of hats out there, and so I'm also like looking for a person. After all this time, I know who I might think would make a better mark, or than someone else. And so I'm also looking for these people. And a lot of times I'll be like, this guy approaching here in the collar, like with the whatever. And then like they'll hit him with the camera. We'll watch him. And then like, if he comes up to me, if he notices me, we catch it on camera. He's like, oh, now he noticed you. So like we also like have eye in the sky. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff. And people, you'd be surprised, people can't be themselves, because sometimes people notice and they don't want to say anything because they want to be on the show because they love the show. That sucks, because sometimes when they dupe us at the end of like us investing our time with them, and if something goes, they'll be like, I'm a big fan of the show, I love the show, and then we're like,
can't include it. Yeah.
And we're like, well, can't be on the show. We don't put anybody on the show that knows the show. Like I appreciate what you did, but I just wish you would have told us, because now we wasted, but we just were like, oh, thank you so much, but we can't be on the show.
So what is the punishment for saying no to a punishment?
There is none. You can't say no. You can't say no. What I was going to say before is people can't be themselves once they know. Sometimes they try to be themselves and play it cool, but it's so funny to watch someone try to play something cool when they know what's going on. Yeah. Like it's so funny. Like if they're like, if we're behind a counter and they'll like step up and be like, hello. Like, I'll have one smoothie, please. Just like, dude, why are you acting like that? But though, that's the one rule: we can't say no to a punishment, and that's why, like, honestly, it sucks. It really does. Like, it does suck. Like, they're punishing me tomorrow, and a lot of the times, like, I'd say like 2/3 of the time, it's a secret. And tomorrow is a full-on secret. I have literally not one iota of an idea what's happening tomorrow for me, and so your brain goes everywhere, and that's still to this day. Like I still don't know what they're going to do to me or what's going to happen tomorrow. And so now like that legitimately hangs over my head today.
You're nervous thinking about it?
Because it could be something that
What's your worst fear for a punishment? If you're like, if they did that, I don't know if I could do that.
Gross out stuff. I probably can't physically bring myself to do.
Like eating insects or something like that?
Yeah, if I had to, I have to. So I always fear that. But also, again, just the minutia of an exchange with someone that is just mortifying, because it's so like, this is not how people act. You're breaking the social contract. It's just like, we still get a pit. I get a pit in my stomach in these moments to this day. And I think that's another reason why the show still works, because every person is new. We don't know how it's going to go with this person. We don't know who they are, what they're about, what's going to be said. And so it's just a clean slate with every single person. And we've done enough to know that, like, holy shit, sometimes people are wild cards, or you never realize where this is going. And so that possibility is always there. And so I think that keeps us on our toes. It's good that I'm nervous about tomorrow still.
Can you say no, though, if you see what the punishment is and you just say, I can't do that?
The reason also we can't is like that day is produced. Those people are there. Our crew is there. Yeah. That location is rented. Those people have been brought in, like whatever it is. So a day is very expensive. Yeah. And so if you can't do it, I mean, it's maybe twice happened in 12, 13 years. Like one time, I'm afraid of heights, and Q was this guy on my show, Brian Quinn. He used to be a fireman, and so they brought a fire truck, and they extended the ladder as high as it can go, and they wanted me to walk up the ladder to the top of a building. And I got an embarrassingly amount. I got, like, I would say maybe 20 feet.
Are you strapped in though? Like
No.
you're not?
No.
Isn't that That's
Yes.
dangerous. Yeah.
I believe so, especially from someone that's going to lock up. I locked up, my legs locked. I
Right.
couldn't physically move my arms and legs to get up. Because also it's like, you know what I hate? I hate see-through stairs as well. I'm afraid of like heights. So like, you know, when you go, or even like you're going on a roller coaster and you're walking up all those like or whatever, and it's like the stairs are like, and I just looked at them and I was like, I felt so bad because I don't know what to do. I can't move. And so they just hit me with the hose right there at the 20-foot mark. They kept me up there. I was already scared. And then they'd hit me with the hose and we kind of like had to, you know, just kind of call an audible there. Like, and then sometimes you don't even get that.
How do you get insurance to do that though without being locked in? Because I see on Fear Factor, like they still have like, you know, something at the bottom where if you fall on, you know, a net or something.
Yeah.
Like, how like insurance wise, you think you would have to get strapped into the thing and like move it up?
Yeah.
Or...
You know, sometimes it's funny with insurance. It's like, it's subjective, believe it or not, just like standards and practices. We come to them with an idea. Sometimes they'll be like, there's no way you can say that. And sometimes we're like, they said we can't, you know what I mean? Yeah. And sometimes we have to barter and we got to, you know, the way that we also learn how to present stuff, that's also learning how to make the show too, because it's like, you know, you learn like where the litmus test is, like where the barometer is of what I already know what insurance or standards might or may not say. Yeah. And so we go in already with a strategy. You know, we'll ask for something that we didn't even want so that we can make a concession to the thing that we really would have asked that they would have said no to. You know, we do stuff like that. Or I point to other shows. I'm like, well, they did it. And like, well, we're just really, really pushed sometimes. Yeah. And nowadays, because we've been there so long, we've been there. There's been a changing of the entire guard at our parent company 4 times since we've been there. So we're there, you know, this is year 13. So when all the new people came in last year, you know, we're a well-oiled machine. They're not going to come in and, you know, put a stick in the spokes, right? So a lot of times they'll afford us, like if we push, they'll give it to us. But like sometimes I don't have the opportunity to say no. Like in the movie, they pushed me into a motel room. I was talking to my buddy Joe. I didn't know this was about to happen. And we're at a roadside motel. It was a road trip movie. And so I thought we were stopped down. I knew we were filming something there later. I didn't really know when or what. And he's like, can I talk to you? And we went for a walk. And it was one of those motels where the doors are outside. And we're standing by a door. And then like after like a minute of talking, he just shoved me and slammed the door behind me. And I was like, what the hell? And I looked and the inside knob wasn't there. They removed it. And so I couldn't open the door. And so I knew immediately that I got. I just didn't know exactly. I knew the cameras were on me. I just didn't know what was going to happen. And I turned around and I heard a growl, and a white Bengal tiger walked out of the motel bathroom. And I was alone with a tiger in there. It was on a chain, but the chain was tied to the shower bar. You know, and I swear to you, I've only felt like that maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life. And I like pressed up against the wall. I was speechless because you can't, the fear is such that you can't get, I don't know if I should speak or move an inch because I don't want to call any attention, you know? And you're frozen with fear. I was literally frozen with fear, but then it's like, they spent all this money. This is a bit, I'm supposed to play into this, and I couldn't. And the first thing I was very, very mad actually. And the first thing I said was, how could you do this? And like, how do we get insurance for this? And in my head, I'm saying to them during it, I'm like, this will not be usable. This is not funny. I cannot play into this. I don't know what to do.
That's a hilarious reaction though.
And ironically, that's what went right into it because that was funny. But in the moment, I was telling them this is unusable. I can't speak.
That
right
is
now.
so good.
Yeah. And that was wild. I mean, to this day, I was like, that you shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean?
Is there a panic phrase or something you could say that like gets you out of the situation?
We did one time we made up one for Q because he has a legitimate phobia of spiders, and we chained him to the ground and like put tarantulas all over him, and we said to him, listen, when we said it, he had a panic attack, and so we said, you know, listen, if it really does get to be too much, we'll think of a word, you know, and so we told him to say pumpernickel if it gets too much. And pumpernickel really meant nothing to us. We were never going to stop it. And so he's literally tied down. He turned like purple with fear, and he's screaming pumpernickel over and over as these spiders are like crawling like on his chest and face and everything. And we were just crying and laughing just because he was like, pumpernickel. He was like crying, just yelling pumpernickel. And believe it or not, a lot of people thought we went too far with that one. Because it's like, we test the limits, but we're not jackass. You know what I mean? Everything is through our lens. And like a lot of it is not. I would never do 99% of the things that Jackass does. And if there is any type of
trauma or something,
if there is any type of DNA connected to like something like, they got bit, they let a dog attack them. Like I'd say over 300 episodes and 1,000 bits, maybe there's like an overlap of maybe 10 things or 15 things that, we jumped out of a plane, whatever. But it's like, they just got attacked by a dog, but we put Q, against a young girl in a spelling bee on stage, and every word that he misspelled, he got attacked by a dog. So we go through our, but like, I normally will immediately say no if like someone's done something before.
Yeah.
But if they can pitch me an original angle on it, or we can come up with an original angle on it, then I'm like, all right, that's our version of this.
I don't think I could ever do that. Like the jumping out of a plane one, to me, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. And Murray's afraid of heights, and I mean, again, these are examples of ones where we really pushed it, but he locked himself in a bathroom at this place, and he was crying, and he called his family because he knew he had to do it, but he really didn't want to do it. And it was like 45 minutes before he came out of the bathroom. And so like we felt bad about that. And this isn't always the case. It's like hardly ever the case.
Yeah.
But we threw him out, and he cried the whole way. So we called it cry diving. Because he literally, a pitch came out of his mouth that was like operatic. Like it was like glass would have shattered if he was holding it. He just came down the whole time like, and like his voice kept giving out because it was so high. And that's what he did the whole way down.
I saw it.
And it was like, it was bad. It was pretty bad.
Oh my gosh.
But
I'd have the same reaction.
yeah.
I couldn't do that. I'm terrified of heights.
Yeah. But it is. People are always like, me and my friends do that all the time. I want to try it, and they're like, I would kill on this show. You'd be surprised. Like we get our friends on it sometimes that are comics or celebrities, and like they're like, oh, this is because when you're right in the moment, like we had to do stuff like Q took a cover charge at the Knitting Factory for a band that was playing, $5.
Oh,
it was sold out. So it was like a few hundred people there. And then he was the door guy, and he checked IDs, and he took all this money. He didn't know what was going to happen to him. And then the show started, the doors closed, and he was amongst them in there as the security guy or the door guy. And then we had someone come on stage and say, "We're sorry, we just got word that there was a guy collecting money. There's no cover charge tonight." And so 300 people looked at him because he took $5 from all of them, and they just went at him. You know what I mean? So like that's hard to do. It's just I had to kick kids out of the pool. Out of a public pool. I was the lifeguard. I had to kick them out for roughhousing, but they weren't doing anything. And their families, the parents were there. And I was like blowing the whistle and taking kids out of the pool and making them sit in the corner for like a half hour. It's like, it's just like, you don't want to do these things. In hindsight, it's funny, but it is in that moment, it is really,
Do you
really
compensate
difficult.
the people who are on the show like that?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, it's like, usually they're good. They're good natured about it. If something goes really, really well, and we see that the person may want to sign, because if they say no, it's got to get blurred. We usually don't use it because that doesn't make the reactions are a lot of the comedy. But sometimes if you see a blurred person, we thought it was good enough, even though the person said no. Yeah. But like sometimes we'll offer a little bit of money if and we'll be like. Sometimes it's like at all costs, that person has to. Because we do have a budget, and so like sometimes we'll like. Rob Peter to pay Paul if something is like this person has to sign and we get up to a number that we would never spend, then like that comes out of the location budget like for another bit, you know what I mean? So it's always a weighing, if the value of the joke and the laugh and things like that.
So one thing I always wondered is like if you're playing a part of a cashier or something like that, and then you get instructions to say something egregious to like an old lady that's placing an order, and then you're like, oh gosh, like, and you kind of like stumble a little bit. Yeah. Like, what is that lady thinking when it kind of like you just kind of seem like you what's that term for someone who hears voices in their head?
Schizophrenic?
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, it's so funny because Murray's particularly, he'll just talk to us, and I'm like, stop talking to me. You look like it looks like you're unstable.
Yeah.
You know. But you'd be surprised like how many people aren't paying attention or just give it to you. Like they're not. It's the last thing they think is that they're on a television show. I'm wearing an earpiece and I'm giggling because I had to say something to them.
Yeah.
I could just have had a thought. Or anything really. I mean, anything at all. And so you'd be surprised how many times. Because another thing we have to do is listen. We have to listen to them and the people talking at the same time, and that still to this day is challenging, because listening is the most important part of being in the moment with someone. Comedy is about timing, so you don't want to miss the timing, and you don't want to miss something important, because then you can't use that as a joke. So there's this jigsaw puzzle going on while we're out there of listening to them so they don't, when you're listening to someone else and I'm looking at you, I have to make it look like I'm listening to you, and I have to listen to you as I'm listening to them. But more important is
probably this.
Yeah. But then sometimes I go, excuse me, say that again. But you don't want the tell of it, you know? And then also sometimes what they say is good for that exact moment. And so you don't want to miss what they're saying. You know what I mean? And then sometimes you get it and you're like, all right, I'll pick the moment. I know I have to say this, but I'm going to pick the moment that, unfortunately, I know I have to say it, I don't want to, but I'm going to pick the moment that's the right time for it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they start giving me more stuff. And I'm like, but we know now the dance that it is. Like if they give me something and I don't do it, they'll kind of hold off a little. Or they'll say something like, this one I want you to do at some point, so keep it in the back, because when the opportunity presents itself, and then we'll give you others. So you have one in the pocket and one to, it's very involved. Like a lot of people watch and they think it's like friends hanging out and stuff, but we have to conceive of the idea and then make sure that it's not a dud. Like, because we have to do all the permutations of what is the best possible scenario for this, and what is the worst, and is it worth it, and what are people liable to say or do, and if they're gonna go this way, I think instinctually they're gonna do this. That kills the bit. How do we make that not happen? How do we tweak this idea to make it, and then so we're working out this this formula to each and every bit. And then once we have the idea and we all sign off on it, we have to think, where would it play? What location would it play best in? And then we have those people go out and look for locations, everywhere. And then the location has to agree to it. And then we have to go by that location schedule. And then they have to scout the location. Then they get there hours before us to put in all the hidden cameras. And, and then so there is just technically and creatively, there is so much going on. There's so much experience with these guys that are hiding these cameras and working on these robo cameras. And then there's also guys like handheld, and they have to be very inconspicuous of how they're shooting us, because they'd give it away. And you never want to be the crew member that gives it away. And then we're also dealing with people, like if I'm talking to you on the street at any given moment, someone could recognize me and they could walk right up and then blow the whole thing. So it's like CIA agents. We have people literally out there that if they see someone, they'll intercept them. So there is just, it's so much lot going on. It's cool though. There's an energy to the set, because everybody, to make the show, every counterpart has to be focused. And so, when you have 50 people focusing, there's an energy to that. You know what I mean?
You could probably sell tickets to show up to the set to watch from afar, where you can listen and watch. High ticket tickets.
Oh my God.
That would be interesting, and sell 20 of them. That could pay for quite a bit.
I'm going to do reaction videos, and I'm going to sell. I'm taking all
look
the
at
business
Mr.
advice
Idea
I
guy
can
over
glean.
here.
Yeah.
Okay. Two last really quick questions about the show.
Yeah, you don't have to.
First question is, who do you think is the most daring on the show? When I watched it, just a copious amount of the show growing up with my dad, and I always kind of thought Joe, when he said no to do something, that was pretty extreme.
Yeah, I don't think it's Joe. I think the most daring is Murray.
Really?
Yeah.
I would not have agreed with
Joe plays daring. Joe is bold. He is bold. But Joe knows his limits. And he's very smart like that. So he will be very bold in a situation he knows he can be bold.
He won't deliberate.
Yes, he will. And he will also steamroll. And so that comes across as bold because in me, I'm much more measured, and I like to feel stuff out, and I like to soft serve things where he likes to just smack it hard. And so, yes, in that way, he's second, I would say. But when it comes to something that, I would never want to do that, he also, like, Murray does things none of us would ever want to do. And sometimes there's an idea like that you gotta, it can't be a secret because you don't want to spend all the money and get everyone there. So we're also, like the ladder, and then they say no. So sometimes you just got to come out with it and be like, will you do this? And then we do what's best for the show, and so Murray will like, that sucks. I don't want to do that, but I'll do it. And we're like, yes, but we got to get creative too. Sometimes if we want to make it a secret, but it is one of those things, we'll pitch an idea. Like I'll go to, I'll go 2Q. If I think this is 4Q, and say, I got this idea. What do you think of it? Him thinking it's for one of the other guys. And if he's like, oh, that's a good idea, but he wouldn't do it, but he said it's a good idea, all's fair. And so then sometimes we turn it on each other, and I'm like, you approve this unwittingly. You know what I mean?
That's fun. What's the one thing like Murray's done that's like that is so gnarly that you wouldn't have even considered doing it? Like you're saying, he's doing the most extreme things.
Dude, I mean, in the punishment in the movie, they tied him standing upright to a prop plane, and it took off and flew in the air and was doing loops in the air as he stood on the wing of the plane, tied to a pole, and the plane was flying in the air and doing loops and curves and everything, and he was standing there. I don't know what would have happened if I lost in the movie. We tried to play those things very real. In the show, we don't shoot the show in linear order. It's impossible because of the nature of locations and availability. So what we do is we just film a bunch of bits and we start keeping track. And we know we're all going to lose. In 20-something episodes, we're all going to lose here and there. So in the beginning, we just think of punishments and do them because we know, sometime in the next 15 episodes, we're going to lose. Yeah. But toward the end, we have to get specific because it's like, all right, now there's only a certain amount left. We have to really, you're only getting one if you're definitely we know you're gonna lose. And so I don't know what I would have done in the movie if I lost because I probably would have. I don't know how my body.
Yeah,
I
you would have been tied in, which is nice.
Probably would have passed out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't even imagine it. Like I'm saying it to you right now, and I can't even imagine it. So, I don't know, man.
But really quick, if you run your own business, then there's no better sound than hearing. And if you want to hear a bunch more, then it's time to get started with our sponsor, Shopify.
Shopify is the global e-commerce platform that has already helped transform millions of businesses worldwide. For example, Shopify is an endless list of integrations, third-party apps, and flexible templates to help you customize your online store exactly how you want.
And what sets Shopify apart from their competitors is their ability to turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout that's 36% better on average than other leading e-commerce platforms. Not to mention, Shopify also powers 10% of all e-commerce in the United States, supporting brands like Rothy's, Allbirds, and Brooklyn in over 175 countries. In fact, if you want to check it out for yourself, my coffee company, Bankroll Coffee, is run exclusively through Shopify. And when we were first starting out, we did a bunch of research, and Shopify was the best by far. Plus, they also have an award-winning support team that's there to help you every step of the way.
So guys, you can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ICH, all lowercase. You can grow your business no matter what stage you're in for $1 per month with the trial period at shopify.com/ICH. Thank you so much, Shopify, and back to the podcast.
Is there something you always wanted to suggest for a punishment, but you knew would be just too far? Something you've always kind of been like, this would have made such a great bit.
Well, there's ones that we wanted to do that we couldn't end up producing. Like Joe was a big gambler. He's a big gambler. Uh-huh. He loves playing blackjack. He loves going down to like Atlantic City, Vegas Hills. He's the guy that sits at the table, joins the tournament, is there for like 7 hours. And we wanted to go down to the casino for a weekend when he was just going on vacation and work with the casino
to rig it,
to have him go on a crazy blackjack run and win like 50 grand. Oh. And then like he doesn't even know that we're there at all, and then come out after he thinks he won that kind of money and just take it away from him.
Oh, so he's
That
card
is
counting
so
and like
good.
Yeah, but you know, it's
that would have been hilarious.
it's really
That is
tricky
so
when you're
good.
getting into those
Yeah.
gambling legalities. There's things that we just can't make happen. But there are ones that are like years in the making. They told me the thing I'm doing tomorrow, they've been thinking about for almost 3 years. So I don't know, and sometimes I think of something today and we'll do it, next week. But
That's crazy.
they did one where they went back to an old bit that we filmed when we were on public property in a city park. And I went up and I was messing with a statue, and they sent a letter from the city to my home that says I vandalized, I wasn't allowed to touch that property. I vandalized it, and I would need to come into a hearing about it. And I did this, and they referenced the episode and the thing and everything. And I was like, this is insane that I got to do this. And I went on my own time into a government building, and I met with people, and they had this whole thing, and they're like, yeah, well, we have to sit here. And they grilled me in this deposition for 3 hours. And then I left, and it was on my own time. And then I got home, and I got a letter in the mail that I was going to be fined $100,000 or something like that. I swear to God. And this went on for months. And the whole time they were behind all of this, and I had no idea.
I was about to
They
say,
started saying why.
okay.
The thing was, how do we make the show when we don't know we're on the show too? Let's start doing that. Dude, they had cameras, pinhole-sized cameras in water bottles on the table. Our camera guys and sound guys have made innovations in the space because of having to, meet our creative ideas. And they go on other shows and work, and people say to them, oh my God, how did you do this? How did you do that? You have to teach us, that's never been done before. Wow. And they did that. And then one day on set, we were filming another bit. The government agents that I was in this deposition with, they walked in the park, and they were walking at me, and I still didn't connect it. And I thought, oh my God, they're coming here now because I didn't pay this fine, and they're coming. I'm in trouble. And they came up, and it was jackets and official, and they were like, you're gonna have to come with us and everything. And I was like, I'm in the middle of a film, I can't believe it. And then they just all started laughing, and they revealed it.
Right.
Yeah.
I got one more question about the show, and we got so many other topics we want to hit.
Yeah.
But how often in your real life do you go about thinking this is a skit when in fact it's just your real life?
Meaning,
you get pulled over and you're like,
you gotta laugh, or
Yeah.
meaning I think they're doing something.
you
to
think
me.
you're doing something in your real life, you get pulled over or something like that, something that happens on the
Yeah.
subway, and you're like, where are the cameras?
It's happened here and there. It's happened here and there, but now I'm so aware of it. Because they did it to me a couple times.
Yeah.
One time I was in an elevator that got stuck, and I also didn't know I was on the show. And I got stuck in this elevator with a guy that had a terrible cold, and he was, and I'm germaphobe, and he was sneezing. His nose was red. It was
So good.
And then a woman who had her pet cat, and
Yeah.
I don't like cats, and this cat pissed in the elevator. I don't know if they knew that was going to happen, but it started pissing. So, and I was in the elevator for I would say maybe an hour with them. And they said oh, we're the fire department, we're working on it. And so I was just in this, and I'm a little claustrophobic as well. So that was a nice concoction of things. And I'm in there for an hour, and I'm just and I had to get to work. And I was in an elevator bank, and I had no service. So I couldn't tell them that where I was or what happened. And so that was another one where I was I can't. And then when it opened up, and they were all saying that, I was like, oh my God. At this point, they'll never get me again, because if something like that happens, I'm just not going to believe it. You know what I mean? But it's a challenge to think of those things where we could still get one over on each other. We're still trying, but.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So how do you write and test comedy to make sure it's funny?
For the show or in general?
Just in general.
Well, testing it is simply just, as a comic, you're performing every night.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
So you just
there's
throw
no
in a new
secret
thing
to it. I'm on stage, at least, at least 3 nights a week, sometimes 4, sometimes every night, and that's 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 spots in a night. And it's just, that grind. And the audience is going to tell you what's funny and what's not. It's a lot of, in the beginning, it's a lot of bombing. Mm-hmm. Then when you get your legs under you, you get your voice, you get confidence, and you've been doing it a while, you still have stuff that doesn't hit. Every comic, even the best comics, bomb. because that's part of the process of getting a joke to be as good as it is. It's just a different type of bombing. Like, you can bomb, but then like it's not like gonna go horribly south. You can make fun of that, and then like, you know what I mean? There's ways to
play with
understand, you know, like, you know, yeah. So, but you know, it's just like, it's like anything else. I've been doing it for so long that I have my own experience, you know, like what got me here was going with my gut of what I think is funny. And that's how, I mean, I'm not going to get on stage with anything that I don't think is already funny. And I'm not going to like think of a bit that I don't think, do I think it's funny? Yeah. It's the only gauge I can use. But I can't write for anybody else. I can think something is hysterical that you think is not funny at all, you know? And some people tell me, like, I've had such wonderful comments on the special that's out right now, Terrified on YouTube. Yeah. People like, this is the best one of the year, or the best one I've seen in so long, or, you know, and then some people, you know, inevitably, you know, trolls, but, you know, just like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? But that's all I do is just, I'm a fan of comedy. I love laughing. You know, and so I just, if it would make me laugh, that's it. And that's really it.
How has comedy changed over the last 20 years? Because it does seem like comedy has softened a little bit, that it used to be a lot edgier.
Yeah.
And now there's a lot of jokes that people say, oh, you can't say anymore. Like the Eddie Murphy is a great example of in the 90s, he'd get away with saying all these things, whereas today, like, he would just be canceled.
Yeah, well, in that respect, it has changed, right? You go back and look, but that's the same for anything throughout history at all. Yeah, it's you know, it's office politics, it's anything and everything, and so it's hard to look back and chat and judge someone, as wrong as it may seem now, or like out of pocket as it may seem now, for something that they did when collectively the world wasn't like coming down on it. It's a different time, you know, and so. We still have that now, you know, like people can say what they want as long as it's not gratuitously offensive. Like you can, you know, that's the difference between a really good comic or not, is someone that can get on stage and talk about hot button, touchy subjects and make it funny. There's a dance to you know, toe the line, and it's just got to be clever, and it just ultimately has to be saying something. You just can't get up and just make fun of something. That's just lazy, ignorant comedy. You know what I mean? But if someone like an Anthony Jeselnik talks about, like, his whole thing is gallows humor, and it's very like, you know, I think one of his specials like Fire in the Nursery, whatever. Well, you know, you're talking about topics like that, right? If someone has had an experience in their life where that's a triggering thing, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that he can't touch the subject. That is what he does amazingly. No one can do it like him, and that's what he found after so many years of doing comedy, you know. And so that's his skill set. And so, and you know, people that watch him for it know that it's a joke, like, you know. So his huge fan base are people that are fine with it, you know. That's just great comedy. They're not looking at it like the person that might have been triggered. So, you know, I don't think that's ever going to go away, you know. But I think that comedy is as prevalent as it ever was. I mean, ever. Like, you talk about the golden age of comedy, and when people had sitcoms, and when a special meant something because it was only like a few specials a year, and Johnny Carson was a gatekeeper. Like, that was a very special time in comedy. But we have more comedians than ever before right now, ever. And even that is only a few thousand out of like billions of people.
It seems like comedy's made a huge resurgence lately. It seems like in the last few years.
Part of it was the pandemic. Yeah. I think the pandemic catapulted comedy to a space it's never been before. People needed content. Television was not giving content. And, you know, people they could output whatever they wanted. Everyone was stir crazy. And every comic was like, I'm going to tape everything. I'm going to put it up. And people consumed that content and found so many new comedians. And then now people know, let me go mine for comedy. I'll go on tonight on YouTube and find someone new. Whereas before, that wasn't the way you consumed comedy, right? And that's good. That's good for comedy. You know what I mean? So it depends on what handle you want to pick it up from. It's like, there's this whole thing of like, you know, cancel culture or, you know, oversensitivity, but comedy is thriving, you know.
Why do you think dark humor is so attractive to people?
Yeah, anything taboo, you know, is going to be like, it's just like a negative headline is going to be, you know, the news uses negative headlines to stoke, you know, fear, or not that it's stoking fear, but it's like, it's taboo, you know, like, it's just like, oh, this is edgy, you know, people are attracted to that to begin with. Like, should he be saying it? Or it's like, I would never say this. Or to hear someone, also like in a club or in a room, when someone is saying something that is edgy like that, laughs come from different places, and different emotions. And if someone is like embarrassed or like, like shocked or whatever, like a laugh can come from there. And a lot of times it's like, I just think that people respond to that because it's not like also how people speak in their regular life. Some people just have a dark sense of humor. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But I just think it's like, let's see them make this dark thing funny, or also the way people are consuming comedy is clicking, and surfing on the internet, and what is going to get more clicks, something that is more salacious and edgy, or people that, that's just inherently, it's just going to get more clicks. It's just the same thing as like creating the perfect headline for the front page of the paper or whatever. It's like, what's going to sell? And a lot of times things that are edgy like that pique interest more than, things that aren't. Like, I have a 4-minute bit on moths, and for my audience, people that I like really like, look, I'm a fan of George Carlin and Eddie Murphy and Bill Burr, and those aren't my style. Those are my heroes and stuff. But like, people like Seinfeld and Larry David and Brian Regan and Sebastian and things like that. Like, you know what I mean? Those are the people that I associate with myself as far as like the style of comedy that before. And there's an audience for everything, really. You know what I mean? But, someone's, like, I banged, some, if you're going to click on something, they're clicking on that before they click on, let's talk about mothballs.
I thought the moths bit was hilarious because I had never spoke to anybody in my entire life about me always thinking that moths were going to be a big problem when I was getting older. Like as a kid, I always thought that for some reason I had it in my brain that I'd be walking around with shirts with a bunch of holes in them everywhere. And I forgot about that memory until you brought it up. And that was years of my life that I spent thinking, oh God, like when are they going to come?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's the highest compliment I can get, really. Because again, it's like, I don't know, everything that's been said, right? Or every topic, I should say. It's like, am I going to talk about airline food? Like you can, if you have an angle on it that has never been said before, you can. Mm-hmm. Right. Otherwise it's hacky. So it's all about like, what is the original angle on this? You know what I mean? And so that was mine. And then even better if people can relate to that, but it blindsided them and they're like, oh my God, I relate to that so much, but it's not like something that everyone thinks like, oh my God, the post office, or, I wait so long at the DMV. Like, we all already think that, but if I come out something with an angle that you never really think of, but then it's like, holy shit. Yeah. That's kind of really, the best result.
Is there anything that's off limits when it comes to comedy that like all comedians say, oh, we don't really talk about that, or there's something that pushes the limit too far?
As a comic, I think nothing. Once something is off limits, anything can be off limits. And that's way worse than nothing being off limits. And like I said, I think any topic could be spoken about as long as it's done the right way. Comedy, lazy comedy, or comedy that doesn't, just doesn't make the mark. Like, it's just not, it just didn't get there. It was an attempt maybe, but it was a swing and a miss. Yeah. That then people could say, well, this is bullshit. But we're not going for that. We're going for the best possible result, right? And the thing about comedy is that we have to do it in front of everyone. Like the result of the things that you're seeing on my special, there was a joke in there that was 9 years old. You like it now. I mean, but like, it wasn't like that when it started. And so like, the only way to get to the place where that topic that seems crazy is like, oh my God, that was one of the most clever, well-crafted jokes I've ever heard. That person threaded the needle, and not everyone could do that. And then you watch someone talk about this topic that everybody else is up in arms with, and then no one could say anything because it's so clever. It's an art form. It really is. Yeah. And like, that's the goal, but you see every single step to get there. And so like, a lot of times people will be videotaped or judged on something that is literally half baked. You know what I mean? And so like, that's another reason why, like, I think people might be like, this is shit. You know what I mean? Like, It's just like, all right, but it's the middle of the process right now, and the regular person doesn't really know that, it doesn't understand. And because so many people are consuming comedy than ever before, there are people that are new comedy fans or not comedy fans. If you see someone who's a comedy fan, they're an educated consumer of it. You know what I mean? But a large portion of people now aren't, and so I think that you'll get people that are quicker to judge, and because the online is an echo chamber, you can have a minority of people say something, but the headline is that one because that's going to get the most clicks. Yeah. You could have 100 people say that was the funniest thing ever, and then 5 people be like, I'm offended, how dare you, and then that's what sticks out. Or unfortunately, when people write about it nowadays, like media and news outlets are using tweets and things as sources. And so they can create whatever story they feel they want out of something. So if they want to pull the thing that says, I've never been so offended in my life, and that's what's going to get them the clicks. It's like, oh, Dave Chappelle makes joke, people never, and it's just like whatever.
That's what I was kind of thinking. It's a bit like a group think behavior where if one person says something, then everyone else could latch on to it.
Yeah.
And even if someone's never had that thought before, they see one comment, wait a second, that person's offended. Maybe I should be offended too.
Yeah.
And then if you see 2 comments, wow, 2 people, I'm definitely offended. And it seems like that infects people's perception.
Yeah. A lot of times people aren't really offended either. They feel like they should be offended, or they know that this could be offensive to others. Or whatever.
Or
but
they say they're offended because
someone,
it gets applause. Like, oh, great! I'm glad you're standing up for being offended at that.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, a bit in a room in a club, everyone in that place is enjoying it, laughing. No one's having an issue there. And then online, people have an issue. Yeah. Well, why wasn't it an issue to any of the 1,000 people in that theater? It's, they contextually understand what's going on. And because, it really isn't offensive. Sometimes if you'll challenge someone to be like, well, what exactly is it that offended you? They're not really offended.
They're not. They're just protecting
online.
I think they're rewarded for being a victim online.
Yes.
That's what it seems.
I mean, there's so many
It's
things
also
that play
better
into
to
it.
be offended than to support something that could be offensive.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And exactly. And it's like, and also online is completely fake. Everything about it is completely fake. People are the percentage of people. Well, I'm saying the percentage of people on social media that are representative of their true selves, even if it's 80%, it's not 100. And a lot of times you see something play out online, and as comics we live it in real life, and it doesn't exist in real life. No one is saying that to you on the street. No one is coming up to you. That's not getting to people in real life. People are emboldened or can be and say things that they wouldn't say in real life online. And like one of the biggest, areas that affects comedy.
How do you separate the two between the comments that you read online versus the perception that you have in person?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just judge immediately if I think the comment has merit. If something is a constructive criticism or makes a good point, I could be aware that that's making a good point. You know what I mean? Yeah. Other than that, like mostly it's trolls or people not understanding something, or whatever it is. And I also don't really read comments. Like you can, there's ebbs and flows. Like when my special came out, I was so interested. I wanted to read it. Yeah. In the beginning, when I started my podcast, I kind of wanted to read it. You want to get a sense of your audience, what they're thinking. Totally. You want to dip a toe, but then at a certain point you get it. And then it's redundant, and then it's just wasting my time. It's not that I won't respond to someone or look a couple times, but I do not doom scroll. It's just too much. And at the end of the day, I actually because what do I do as a comic? It's the same thing that I'm on stage. If I'm on stage and I'm performing at a club or a theater, and there's 500 people laughing, and there's one guy here not laughing, we can't take our eye off that guy. He's the one I'm focusing on, and on stage it's annoying me, or it's bothering me, or it's I got to get this guy to laugh, even though everyone's rolling. You know what I mean? And that's the same thing online. By human nature, which one is going to resonate with me more? That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Or you're a piece of shit. You know what I mean? It's all right, what the hell, man? And it's just well, I don't need that. I got a real life. I have a family. I got stuff to get. And and I get sucked into it sometimes. But at a certain point, you realize this is wasting my time.
So we only have a few more minutes, but we have a couple more topics that
I
are. that
wanted
kinda-
this to be a bowl of laughs. This whole entire thing.
This
I
thing-
think
But it's like,
I thought
but
it
it's like I'm
was,
approaching
yeah.
it so seriously. Like there's not even this
Yeah.
isn't even like a 2%
It doesn't-
Bobby Lee
yeah,
of a Bobby Lee episode.
I'm concerned that if a comedian comes on the show, they feel like they have to be funny.
No, I never feel
Which
bad.
like, okay, that's good.
But I wanted to bust balls with you guys, but I'm like, it feels like I'm giving a TED talk.
Let's
Well, hold on a
bust
second.
balls
Hold
a
on.
little bit,
I want to know, in the hours of research that I did, it seems like you're a hopeless romantic. They say if you can make a woman laugh, then you can make her fall in love. Is that true? Is that true?
Probably, right?
Well, you're the comedian. I don't know. I mean,
you would know.
you tell us.
I think my wife thinks I'm funny. I think so. I think music and humor, like laughing and like, are the two most powerful.
Like if you could play music for a woman.
Yeah, you could be that guy that breaks out the guitar and like
Okay.
at the party. No,
Play
I can't.
Wonderwall, Jack. That's all you gotta do.
Got it.
No, yeah, no. I mean, like, yeah, for sure. I think that anything. I think like that's a connection with anybody. I mean, right? I mean, laughing is universal. Like someone that doesn't know the same language, we could both laugh at Buster Keaton. You know what I mean? It's just like I'll bond with someone that doesn't even know my language because it's a shared experience. So I'm even giving a TED Talk answer to this question. But I think music and comedy are the two most powerful things, and that's why I do think it is really important that comedians are left to tackle these subjects, because it's one of the only people left these days that are like trying to unite people through. The goal is not to I mean, look, having anyone talk about you is good.
Yeah.
If you're polarizing, fine. But the goal for me is to unify people. Like, I don't want people. All the politics in the last decade or whatever it is. Like, it's become so divisive that it's like no one lived like that. I was a bartender. You didn't talk politics or religion. My parents weren't politically forward. I mean, it's fine to be, but people are judging people instantly now.
Yeah.
Like, you may love someone now, people, and you're like, oh, who do you? Oh, don't ever talk to me again. That's absurd. That's lunacy. And it's like it's so prevalent, and I just feel like, my God, what the fuck is everyone doing? Like, we don't have to agree on anything, and I could still think you're a terrific person. Of course, there's extremes. But most of us are reasonable people, and I just can't stand it now, because it seeps into comedy too. When people come to my show, I want anyone and everyone to laugh at that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, anyway, I think it's supposed to unify. So I do think laughter is just like, it's a human nature type of attraction. So I would say that might translate. That's like the go-to line for women. It's like, I just want a guy that can make me. They're not like, I want a chiseled model, which is probably what they want, but
What they actually want.
I want a guy that can make me laugh. Yeah.
Now, speaking of judging people,
I've dated out of my league because I'm
just
funny.
consistently.
I believe so. Yeah, I don't, I
Okay, so how do you?
I'm
let's
way more
say- let's
funny
say
than
you
I
s-
am handsome.
You see a woman. Well, you have a great hairline.
I
first of all.
appreciate
You-
that.
you
I will
really
take
do.
I will take the compliment on the hair. I will
Okay,
take
yes,
that.
good.
Because I
Yeah.
even I could admit I have some good hair.
Yeah, if you see an attractive woman out on the street, now I know you're married and you have a beautiful family. Yeah. But let's
No,
just
it's
take
okay.
us
Throw
back.
them
Let's
out the
take us
window,
back,
yeah.
20 or so years.
They don't even exist.
Okay, so you see an attractive, beautiful woman on the street. You want to go up to her. What goes on? Like how do you do that as a comedian?
what joke do you say?
Yeah, do you
I don't
laugh or
I
something?
don't approach beautiful women on the street.
Okay,
I don't
so that
do
was
that.
never in the.
I don't do that. I most of my relationships have just come from meeting someone and knowing them already, or it's not. I'm not that guy that's like, excuse me, I'd love to take you. I don't know how people do that, but I
Yeah.
see it happen all the time, and I'm
Well, that's
still
gotten
amazed.
popular now.
Yeah, I mean, no, there are guys that just like are socially have game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool. They're just cool. I mean, there and then there's guys that are like, sleazy about it, but that doesn't mean like that. Then there's just dudes I know that are just good with the lady. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
true.
I mean, I like to, feel it before I go that, like I follow that feeling. You know what I mean? Like if
Okay.
I have a friend that I had an attraction to,
Yeah.
or this or that, like
Some reassurance,
a platonic
maybe.
relationship, or whatever it is. I
Yeah.
just peripherally know someone. If I feel it, I'll and I'm into it, then I'll pursue it. But I rarely am I the guy that's like, let me holla at you for a second.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm curious, are you now like super confident, like very easy in most uncomfortable social situations because you've just had like a backlog of, a decade of experience being horrifically like uncomfortable?
No. You would think I got a thicker skin
Yeah.
in the context of the show. even though I still get nervous. But no, because real life, the cameras are not there. And it's like, it's this weird thing. I actually was just talking about this to someone the other day. I don't think I could do some of the stuff I do on the show in real life
Because
without
it seems
the
like
cameras.
detached. It seems like
the
fake.
cameras in some way give me this little safety net. Like, sure, this person is feeling the emotions of what I'm saying in this moment, so they're living it for real. So this is a real exchange.
Yeah.
But I know that, momentarily in 5 minutes, they're going to be at least told it was a show. It doesn't help 100% because I still have to live this in real time with these people, but it helps. And in real life, when I think of some of the things I would do, I'd be like, I would never do that, because then I walk away from that person with them believing that that's the reality, and I would never want to do that. And so, no, it does not translate. I'm still as immediately shy, uncomfortable, or whatever, cringy in real life. Nothing from the show translates to real life, really. Or even hitting on a girl, like a woman, like they made me hit on in the show. I do in the show when they tell me to flirt with a woman, or I had to go down and sit at a table of three
I thought
women
you did well.
that
Like
were in the middle of eating dinner, and I just had to sit down.
But you
and
were smooth.
Not get kicked out. I pulled that out of my ass, man. I just was like, I got to do this, and it gave me this you just ride an adrenaline rush, and I don't know how I pulled that off. But if the cameras were not there, I would never have done that. So sometimes you surprise yourself, I'm like, oh man, I had that in me the whole time. But like, it's, but I can't do that when I do on the show. And you know what's crazy? A lot of times the females on the show in flirtatious situations or situations where like there's an energy like that, they respond favorably, which is kind of wild, because it's like, I can't believe that, like, because
it's the hairline.
In life,
That's
we just
what it
think
is.
you just think, oh, rejection. I'm going to be mortified. Like, I can't put myself out there. Like, who do I think I am? Like, but it's crazy how many people are just, if nothing else, polite and receptive, and not making you feel foolish about it. You know what I mean? But it is. It's like, oh wow, I guess maybe like you can be forward, but this is not me. I'm pretty damn shy in real life. On stage, not at all, but in real life, I'm not that forward. I'm outgoing with friends, and it's not like I'm like, I'm very outgoing, but like in a social situation around people I don't know, in a new environment, whatever, I am quiet.
So I've always wanted to ask, because I know we have to wrap this up. As a bartender, are there any drink stereotypes that you find to be true? Like if someone orders a Corona, oh, that's this type of guy.
Vodka Red Bull.
Or a vodka Red Bull.
Old-fashioned, something like that.
Like, what have you noticed?
Vodka Red Bull wants to dance, and they want to dance, and they're in for the long haul of it.
The long haul.
That's for sure. They want to. It's an all-nighter. A vodka Red Bull. It's so funny. In my decade of bartending, I had one person order a glass of gin, just gin.
No ice?
No, it was gin on the rocks. It was like
I feel like that's a common...
Gin on the rocks? I've never seen it. It tastes like pine salt. It's the most grotesque thing. One man, he was 90. That's my wife's drink of choice. Is gin on the rocks.
Isn't that
I'm
what
like,
they make
in 10
martinis
years of
out of
bartending, I'm talking about 1 million people. One 90-year-old man.
you're right. Gin and tonic is what I was
Yeah,
thinking
you
of.
need the
Okay,
tonic.
yeah.
Right.
Just drinking the gin is batshit crazy.
Your wife likes gin?
That's her favorite drink, just gin on the rocks. She doesn't drink a lot, but that is, and I'm just like, how do you even, one sip, I'm like, this is not an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe when people say that they like hard alcohol, like just the taste of it without any sort of mixer or anything. I just can't believe it. It tastes abhorrent.
Yeah, I can't get into like IPAs and all those and I believe me, that's the biggest thing. But like if someone's ordering a pale ale IPA with whatever, they're like they could be a beer kind of. It's not. I'm just give me a Miller High Life, give me a give me an Amstel Light or something like that. I'm not, but or if someone orders a Pabst, at least in New York, that's definitely someone that wants to conserve some cash.
Yeah. Good.
Because that's like a $2 beer, maybe like a hipster type of guy, or just a guy that's like budget conscious, which is great. Because that's where I go. Because there are drinks now at a bar, like a drink that used to be like $6 when I was bartending is like $18 right now. I do not know how people get drunk anymore, or I don't know how people go out to a bar anymore. Like you used to have to go to a bar with $30, and for the night, like a couple of shots, a bunch of beers, and it's wild, dude. So like that's always me. I'm like, do you have Miller High Life? Yeah.
All right, Sal. Thank you so much
Thanks
for coming
so
on the
much.
show.
Thank you for coming
We had a
on,
blast.
to watch my TED Talk. I appreciate
Absolutely.
you guys.
Everything, all of his information linked down below, including his new special. Thank you so much for making the time. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.